The first rays of morning sun slipped through the translucent panels of the greenhouse and warmed the rows of young plants. Eric knelt beside a bed of sprouting lettuces, brushing damp soil from his fingers. He smiled at the tender leaves reaching toward the light. Kara watched from the doorway. She held a small datapad and scanned soil readings. A soft breeze carried the scent of fresh earth. People in the colony worked in peaceful rhythm. Children ran between low buildings, chasing each other and laughing. Farther down the dirt path, a group of settlers unloaded supplies from a shuttle. The hum of machinery blended with birdsong and the soft whistle of wind through tall grasses. Eric rose and stretched. He wiped his brow and called, "Let me know if the moisture falls below 20%. Kara nodded. She touched a switch. On her pad, and numbers shifted. Kara had dark hair tied in a loose braid. She was careful and kind. Her eyes were steady as she studied each reading. Eric was tall and lean, with a friendly smile. He loved working the soil and watching life grow. Together they made a good team. Morning chores moved on. Eric gathered seedlings in wooden trays and carried them down the path. He greeted neighbors. By name, Mara, the shuttle driver, waved from the landing pad. She set down another crate and climbed out, her boots shaking dust off a crate. Javier, the engineer, walked by with oil stains on his coveralls. He tipped his cap at Eric. Everyone felt safe here. Viridian was not an easy planet, but humans had learned to live with its red skies and sparse water. They built a small dome of green life. It was their home. Suddenly the sky changed. Kara raised her head and frowned. Eric paused on the path. A distant hum grew louder, deeper, until it sounded like the roar of a storm. People stopped their work. The humming became a thunderous drone. Shadows passed over the red fields. High above, a line of dark shapes cut through the sky. Alien warships. They glinted like shards of metal in the sun. A hush fell over the colony. Kara pressed her hand to her throat. Eric set down his tray of seedlings and stepped forward. Without warning, bright beams of energy lanced from the ships. Buildings that days before sheltered families turned to rubble. Explosions rocked the ground and crackled through the air. A wave of heat swept over Eric. He staggered, but caught himself on a broken fence post. Someone screamed. A child cried out in fear. Kara sprinted toward the glass dome where dozens of colonists worked planting new seeds. She shouted, "Get down!" Her voice was firm. The dome's panels shivered under the blast. Glass cracked and glass shattered. Kara threw herself over the nearest planter bed. Soil flew as the dome buckled. Outside, dust and smoke billowed. Eric saw a young boy lying on his back, his small chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. The boy's leg lay at an odd angle. Blood pooled beneath him. Eric dropped to his knees and checked the wound. It was deep. The boy's eyes were wide with pain. Eric tore a strip from his own shirt. His hands shook as he wrapped it around the boy's leg. He held pressure on the wound. The boy whimpered. Eric called out, voice loud against the chaos, "Medic needed here!" He looked up at the sky, lips pressed tight. His skin was smeared with dirt and sweat. Karen, the medic, burst from the crumbled clinic building. She carried a small kit and rushed to them. Karen's face was pale but determined. She knelt beside Eric and the boy. Together they worked quickly. The warships fired again. A blast hit the edge of the cratered path. Gravel and shards flew in every direction. Eric shielded Karen and the boy with his body. Kara crawled out from the shattered dome and joined them. Kara brushed dust from her hair. Her uniform was torn at the sleeve. She lifted the child's head and whispered, "You're safe with us." She met Eric's eyes. He nodded. They returned to stabilizing the boy. Another beam tore through a water tower at the settlement's edge. Water sprayed across ruined huts. Colonists stumbled through rising streams, trying to carry supplies to safer ground. One woman lifted a crate of fresh food high above her head. Another man pushed a broken cart away from the blast zone. Kara looked around in shock. She turned to Eric and asked, "Why are they attacking? We never hurt them." Her voice cracked. Like the glass beneath her boots, Eric tightened his grip on the boy's shoulder. He set his jaw. His green eyes burned with anger. He rose to his feet, one hand still pressing on the wound dressing. He pointed at the sky and yelled as loud as he could, "You attacked our home!" The words cut through the roar of explosions. His voice rang clear. Everyone turned to look. At him, the boy whimpered again. Eric knelt down and said softly, "I'm here, buddy." He pressed harder on the bandage. Kara worked faster, pulling out tools and sterile cloth. Sirens wailed in the distance. A warning tone sounded through colony speakers, telling people to seek shelter. Smoke rose from broken buildings like twisted metal flowers. The stench of burning fuel drifted through the air. Eric scanned the horizon. The warships dipped lower. Alien soldiers poured out of landing craft. Tall figures in dark armor marched toward them. Their visors glowed with a cold light. They carried weapons larger than Eric's chest. Children cried. Parents grabbed them and ran. Eric helped Kara lift the boy to his feet. He hugged the child. "Close," Kara shouted. "Fall back to the shelters." She grabbed Eric's arm. They ran across broken ground, dodging debris. The boy clutched Eric's shirt. A hatch to the underground shelter stood open, its metal door hanging by one hinge. They backed inside just as another blast shook the entrance. Kara slammed the door shut. Eric pushed a welded support beam against it. Dust and sparks flew inside. The shelter, dozens of colonists huddled on the cold floor. The walls were bare concrete. Rows of benches lined the sides. Lights flickered as power surged. Kara held the boy in her arms and whispered, "You're safe now." The boy's tears fell onto Kara's sleeve. Eric stood at the doorway, peering into the smoky haze outside. He wiped sweat from his brow. His face was streaked with dirt. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes for a moment. Then he straightened. He spoke to the gathered colonists, voice steady. "We will rebuild. We will not run. We will show them that we are strong." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some people wiped tears. Others clenched fists. Eric turned to Kara. She met his. "Look." No words were needed. Behind the steel door, the rumble of alien boots grew louder. Eric put a hand on the door beam. Kara checked the boy's bandage. The colonists held their breath and braced themselves. The human colony trembled, but inside those walls, hope burned bright. The first stand of the settlers had begun. Deep underground, the colony's shelter hummed with quiet fear. Concrete walls soaked up the tremors from above. Eric stood near the entrance beam, listening to the heavy boots of alien soldiers. Kara knelt beside the wounded boy, holding a warm cloth to his forehead. His breathing was slow but steady. Beyond the thick door, the alien forces scoured the ground. Eric whispered to Kara, "They will break in soon." Kara touched his arm. "We must hold them off until help arrives." She checked her watch. Time seemed to stretch. Miles above Viridian, the human fleet sliced through the blood-red sky. On the command deck of the ship Horizon, Admiral Avia paced in front of the star map. She watched the waves representing alien vessels advancing. On the planet, Lieutenant Lavra stood by the communication console. Her finger hovered over the distress signal icon. Olivia lowered her voice. "Open a secure channel to the colony. Tell them help is on the way, but warn them to hold their position." Laura's fingers moved fast. The console beeped. On screen, Eric's face flickered. He looked exhausted. His uniform was torn and stained with dust. Eric saluted even as he leaned against the beam. He spoke into the speaker, voice firm despite fatigue. "This is Eric Weaver. We are pinned. In the shelter, the aliens are trying to break the door. Civilians are wounded. We need immediate support." Olivia nodded. "Understood, Weaver. A rescue team will arrive in 15 minutes. Stay calm. Do not expose yourselves until we give the signal." Her eyes met Captain Daniel's. He stood ready in the doorway. Hand on his holster. Daniel gathered his squad in the corridor. Nathan checked his rifle. Chloe readied hacking gear. They wore light armor suited for quick strikes. Daniel spoke softly. "We move fast. Our goal is to clear the shelter perimeter and evacuate civilians. Follow my lead." Below, Eric heard the fleet's promise. He straightened. Kara sighed with relief. The boy stirred and opened his eyes. Kara smiled. "You're going to be fine." Eric knelt and gave the boy's hand a gentle squeeze. In the shelter's main room, colonists formed a loose circle. They whispered prayers and held makeshift weapons. A metal table stood in the center with first aid supplies. Light flickered from emergency lamps. Sparks from damaged wiring danced across the ceiling. Suddenly, bolts of energy hit the outer door. Metal screamed as it bent under force. A group of colonists huddled behind a row of benches. One man, Jordan, gripped a battered crowbar and pressed his back against the wall. Eric rose and moved toward the door. He pulled Kara aside. "It's now or never. Ready?" She nodded, steeling herself. Kara, Eric, Jordan, and two others took position behind a concrete pillar. At that moment, an explosion rocked the wall near the entrance. Dust rained down. The beam shifted. The soldiers had breached the outer frame. On horizon, Lavra watched the timer tick. 8 minutes remained. She tapped her foot. Oliva placed a hand on her shoulder. "Trust our team. They know what to do." Lavra took a deep breath. In orbit, a small shuttle detached from the mothership. Engines flared and it dove toward Viridian. On board, Captain Daniel checked his boots. "Hold on tight." The shuttle rattled through the atmosphere. Flames licked. Its hull on board the shuttle. Chloe worked at a console. She hacked the shuttle's sensors to mask their approach. Nathan scanned exterior cameras for enemy positions. The shuttle door opened and cold wind hit their faces. They raced across rocky ground toward the shelter. Energy blasts lit the sky like angry lightning. Daniel led the way, crouching low behind jagged rocks. He signaled for Chloe to send a spoof. "Command to the alien com systems? Back underground?" The beam shifted again. Metal groaned. Eric realized the door would break soon. He shouted, "On my mark!" He counted slowly to 3. Just then, a charge detonated above the door. A shadow passed over the crack. Daniel's squad smashed through the breach from the opposite side. Daniel raised a hand. "Secure the area." Kara and Eric jumped back. Bullets of light flashed as humans and aliens exchanged fire in the narrow corridor. Chloe slipped to David, the medic's side. She connected a small device to the door's control panel and locked it. Automatically. Nathan covered the retreat with his rifle. Daniel moved swiftly, firing non-lethal charges that stunned the alien soldiers. One soldier fell against the wall, unconscious. The rest scattered into the tunnels. Daniel called out, "Clear." He crouched beside Kara and Eric. "Are you all right?" Kara nodded. Eric brushed dust from his shoulders. Behind them, colonists poured into the main room. Eric guided the boy and other injured people onto stretchers. Kara helped Karen pack medical supplies. Jordan and the others secured the doors. A human medic team entered with larger packs. They quickly tended to wounds. The colonists exchanged relieved smiles. The shelter was safe, for now. Outside, the shuttle arrived. Its engines roared on the landing pad. The rescue team formed a perimeter. Daniel watched as a drone swarm scanned for hidden threats. Olivia's voice crackled over the comm. "Evac go. Move the civilians to the shuttle." Eric lifted the boy into his arms and stepped onto the ramp. Kara helped load injured settlers one by one. Nathan covered the rear, eyes sharp for danger. A final explosion rocked the ground. A small alien unit charged the shuttle. Daniel drew his weapon and fired. The soldiers fell. The ramp closed. The shuttle rose into the sky. Inside, the colonists looked out at their burning settlement. Kara placed a gentle hand on Eric's arm. He nodded, understanding the code. They would return. Captain Daniel stood at the rear hatch. "We have them all." Heading back to Horizon, Kara and Eric exchanged determined glances. Beneath them, Viridian's red soil glowed through the smoke. On deck of the Horizon, Admiral Avia tracked the shuttle's approach. She turned to Lavra. "They made it," Lavra exhaled. In the briefing room, a new star map glowed. The battle for Viridian had just begun, but humans had shown their strength. Eric and Kara stood together at the shuttle door. Eric looked down at the planet. We may have lost our home, but we'll come back stronger. Kara held the boy close and whispered, "We will rebuild no matter what." As the shuttle docked, the crew prepared for counterattack. Sirens echoed through the horizon's halls. The colonists found brief comfort in warmth and light dot above them all. The human flag flew on the command ship, bright against the void. The galaxy would learn that humans defended their home with courage and unity. The next step would demand everything they had. Light from the dock bay cast long shadows across the horizon's polished floors. Captain Daniel Reed led Eric and Kara through corridors lined with maps and screens. They arrived at the intelligence lab. It was quiet. Analysts sat at consoles, watching symbols and data scroll by. Lavra nodded to Kara. "We found your symbol." She pointed at a screen showing the strange emblem from the alien armor. The shape looked like a broken crescent over a star. Kara studied it again. "This belongs to the Zolorian Empire," Lavra said. "They want to use Viridian as a base." Eric frowned. "We cannot let them keep that world," he said. He tapped the screen with a gloved finger. "They attacked without warning, now they will pay." His eyes were firm. In the lab, Nathan and Chloe joined the group. Chloe had printed out schematics of the landing zone and tunnels beneath the colony. "Here is where they landed," she said. "They did not expect resistance underground." "We can use that." Daniel studied the map. "This tunnel leads to the old water reservoir. If we set charges there, we can trap their reinforcements." He pointed at another mark. "Here is the power grid. We cut it, and their armory goes silent." Kara felt hope rise. "We need to save the colonists still on the surface. We must move fast before they lose more ground." She glanced at Eric. "Will you lead a team with me?" Eric looked at Daniel. "I want to help defend my home." Daniel nodded. "Then you two will join Bravo Squad." He tapped a console to assign them. "You train in 2 hours. Rest now if you can." Kara and Eric left the lab. They walked down a long corridor toward their quarters. Along the walls hung banners showing human achievements. One banner read, "Together we stand." It felt strange after the attack, but comforting in their room, Eric sat on the edge of the bunk. "I have never fired a pulse rifle," he admitted. Kara pulled out a simple manual. "Neither have I, but we learn together." She smiled. They spent minutes reading the basic controls and safety rules. Outside, the ship thrummed with engines. Viridian hovered on the view screen. 2 hours later, Bravo Squad gathered in the training simulator. Daniel stood at the front with Chloe, and Nathan. Several Marines listened quietly. Daniel spoke in a clear voice. "Our mission is twofold. First, disable the Zolorian reinforcements underground. Second, secure the colony perimeters on Viridian. We strike at dawn." He handed out rifles. "These pulse rifles fire energy bolts. They are strong against armor. Aim for joints to stun rather than kill, but if necessary, we do what we must." He looked at Kara and Eric. "Pay close attention." Chloe activated the simulator. The room darkened. Holograms of tunnels and corridors appeared on the floor and walls. The squad moved through unseen dangers. Eric raised his rifle and practiced quick aim. Kara ducked behind a pillar and fired on a moving target. Each shot lit up the holofigure with a blue flash. Nathan coached them. "Keep your trigger finger steady. Fire in bursts." "Recoil is heavy." He moved next to Eric. "Remember to check recoil." "Patterns." Eric nodded and fired again. The holo target dropped. Kara cheered quietly. After an hour, the simulator powered down. Daniel looked at his team. "Good work. Now sleep. We launch in 8 hours." He dismissed them. Eric and Kara walked back to their quarters. Kara's mind raced. "Do you think we can do this?" Eric took her hand. "We must. This is our home, our people." He squeezed her hand gently. Kara leaned against the wall. "I just want everyone safe." Eric pulled her into a hug. "We'll make sure of that. We fight together." They held each other in silence. That night, the horizon orbited silently. In the observation deck, Admiral Olivia watched the planet glow below. Lavra joined her. "Everyone is ready. Bravo Squad performed well in training. They will join Captain." Read, Olivia exhaled. I have faith in them. But we face a strong enemy. The Zalorian Empire commands many systems. She tapped the controls. Prepare the fleet. We move at dawn. On Viridian's surface, alien scouts patrolled the ruins of the colony. Their armor glowed dimly in the red dusk. They searched for survivors, but none remained above ground. A blast crater gaped like a wound. Twisted metal lay scattered. Underground, the resistance group had repaired a section of tunnel. Jordan led a small team moving supplies. They set up medical stations and food stores. A radio crackled with news from the Horizon shuttle teams. They had rescued dozens of settlers. Now they worked to support the next wave. Jordan paused at a junction and checked his watch. He tapped a code on the wall-mounted console. Lights switched from red to green. A hidden door slid open. Jordan and two medics entered a side chamber. They found crates of bandages and water filters. The medics thanked Jordan. These will help keep people alive. Jordan nodded. We need to be strong until the reinforcements arrive. He closed the door and continued deeper into the tunnels. Above ground, the first rays of a cold red sun reached the horizon. The human fleet lined up beyond the atmosphere. Shuttles and fighters prepared for drop. Under the command of Daniel, one group would strike underground. A second group would secure the surface. At the docking bay, Bravo squad loaded gear. Eric carried extra ammo. Kara held maps and communication gear. Chloe oversaw the final checks. Nathan loaded an EMP device. Daniel checked links. To your stations. They boarded the drop ships. The doors closed. The engines lit. With a brief jolt, they hurtled toward Viridian. Eric gripped his seat. Kara leaned forward, eyes fixed on the drop path. The ship shuddered through the atmosphere. Heat shields glowed. Then the bay doors opened. They plunged into the red sky. Energy blasts streaked past the hull as alien scouts fired. Daniel gave the order. Deploy now. The troops fell out into the dawn light. Eric and Kara dropped feet first, parachutes opening above. They touched down near a collapsed water tower. Daniel's voice came through the comm. Bravo, move to the service tunnel. Follow Chloe's beacon. Kara found the small beacon blinking blue. She grabbed Eric's arm and led the way. Through dust-clouded tunnels, they moved stealthily. Alien patrols passed by, unaware of the squad's presence. Kara whispered, This way. She held the beacon high. At the power grid room, Nathan set the EMP device on the main console. He looked to Daniel. Ready on your mark. Daniel nodded. Kara and Eric stood back. Jordan and medics tended to wounded colonists around them. They watched anxiously. Daniel counted down on his fingers. 3, 2, 1, now. Nathan pressed a button. A pulse of energy pulsed through the room. Lights flickered and died. Alien equipment powered off. In the dark, human figures moved quickly. They secured the grid room doors. Daniel signaled for the extraction team. Kara opened the comm. Power grid is down. Reinforcements trapped. She grinned. Eric clasped her shoulder. The EMP pulse echoed through the tunnels. Above them, the colony would see a dawn of hope. Humans were taking their world back, one victory at a time. In the still hours before dawn, the Horizon's engines hummed softly. Eric and Kara sat at a small table in the mess hall. Steam rose from their cups of hot tea. Their faces looked tired but determined. Lavra joined them with a plate of scrambled eggs. You two need strength, she said. Eric smiled and took an egg. Kara nodded. Thank you. They ate in silence, each lost in thought about the fight ahead. Outside, the drop shuttles were refitting. Mechanics checked hull integrity and reloaded ammunition. Captain Daniel walked through the hangar, talking quietly with Nathan and Chloe. They reviewed maps of the underground tunnels and surface trenches. At dawn, the Horizon launched a fleet of fighters. The red sky above Viridian glowed with streaks of human craft. Kara, Eric, Captain Daniel, and Bravo squad boarded a large transport for the surface mission. The transport's ramp opened on a rocky plateau. Near the former colony, the ground shook, under footfalls of heavy walkers advancing with the troops. Energy shields flickered as they deployed. Daniel led the squad toward the tunnel's entrance. Alien sentries stood guard in pairs. Kara crouched behind a boulder and raised her rifle. She whispered, "Ready?" Eric checked his rifle's power cell. "Go!" They moved in unison. Kara fired a suppressor bolt at the first sentry. It dropped silently. Eric disabled the second with a quick shot to the leg. Daniel opened the gate mechanism. Quiet clicks and groans echoed. Inside the tunnel, dim lights revealed damp walls and slick floors. The air smelled of stale water. Eric led the way with a flashlight. Kara followed, checking her map. Nathan set small remote charges along the corridor. Chloe planted hacking devices on control panels. Daniel counted down, then pressed a trigger on the remote. The first charge exploded, sealing a side passage. They advanced to the power relay room. Alien tech towers hummed. Daniel pointed to a central console. "Disable that, then we move surface side." Kara and Eric worked together to pry open a vent and crawl inside. A soldier rounded the corner. Kara lunged forward, knocking him out with her elbow. Eric grabbed control wires and yanked them. Sparks flew. The console died. Outside, lights in the alien camp blinked off. Guns slumped in. Silence. The surface fighters seized the moment and launched an all-out assault. On the plateau, human tanks rolled forward. Marines opened fire on enemy bunkers. Explosions lit the sky. Back in the tunnels, Daniel signaled that surface forces had the advantage. Bravo squad exited through the far tunnel mouth onto a ridge overlooking the camp. Kara raised her rifle and fired at command towers. Eric targeted shield generators. Bolts struck with loud cracks. As shield barriers collapsed, Daniel gave the order to charge. They ran down the ridge, hearts pounding. Alien troops scrambled under the new pressure. They crossed open ground under covering fire from human fighters overhead. Kara dove behind a rock to reload. Eric stood and fired down the sights. Aliens fell back or surrendered. They reached the camp center where a large flagpole held the Zalorian banner. Kara gripped her rifle and ran forward. Eric tore the banner down and trampled it. Daniel approached with his squad. He saluted Kara and Eric. "Well done." Kara hugged Eric. His smile was wide under the dirt and sweat. In the distance, human ships hovered, ready to lift colonists. Back to the horizon, families waited near the transport shuttles. Eric and Kara walked toward them, holding hands. A small boy ran to Eric and hugged his leg. Kara knelt beside the child and brushed his hair. The boy's mother thanked them. Her eyes were bright with tears of relief. Captain Daniel appeared on a raised platform with a megaphone. He addressed the assembled people. "The colony is free. We will rebuild. The Zalorian threat is broken for now." He paused. Eric stepped up next. He spoke softly. "We fought for our home. We stood together." He looked at Kara, then back at the crowd. "This world belongs to every one of us." Applause and cheers rose. Kara smiled at Eric. She felt pride and love in her heart. Later, under the red sky, colonists repaired buildings. Eric and Kara worked side by side. They planted new seeds in the greenhouses. Autumn flowers that survived the attack still bloomed. At dusk, Admiral Olivia arrived in a shuttle. She walked among the settlers, offering comfort. She found Eric and Kara at the greenhouse. Olivia placed a hand on Eric's shoulder. "You two led them well." Eric looked up. "We only did our part." Kara nodded. Olivia studied the new plants. "Life will grow again here." She pointed to the sky. "And the fleet will guard this world. No one will attack it again." Eric and Kara watched the horizon. The sun set behind human ships on patrol. Their home was safe for now, but new challenges remained. They stood together, ready to defend Viridian with their lives. The battle for survival had changed them. They were no longer settlers, they were guardians of their world. And they would never forget the morning when they first said, "You attacked our home." The sun rose again over Viridian, casting long red shadows. Below, the battlefield lay quiet. Scattered remains of alien armor and wrecked vehicles dotted the field. Eric and Kara stood at the edge, looking out. Captain Daniel Reed joined them. He held a data pad showing surface maps. Now we reclaim the colony, he said. Remove all threats? He tapped a spot on the map. A strong Zalorian unit holds the northern ridge. They fire on anyone who approaches. Kara ran a hand through her. Hare, we secure that. We secure the colony. She looked at Eric. He nodded. They joined Bravo's squad, which gathered behind low walls of rock and soil. Nathan hefted an energy launcher. I'll clear the ridge path. You two follow me. Erica, another Marine, checked her rifle. Chloe and Lava readied. Come gear. Daniel signaled. Move out! They dashed across open ground, guns raised. Energy bolts zipped overhead. Kara crouched, firing in short bursts. Eric covered her flank. Nathan fired the launcher. A bright arc of energy struck a rocky outcrop, opening a path. The squad moved through. They reached cover behind a fallen tree. From here they saw the alien unit. Tall soldiers in black armor. Manned heavy weapons on the ridge. We hit them now, Daniel whispered. Kara gripped her rifle. Eric took a deep breath. At Daniel's mark, Nathan fired another launcher round. The explosion rocked the ridge. Alien soldiers fell back. Bravo squad charged up the slope. Daniel led, cutting through debris. Kara provided covering fire. Eric found himself beside a wounded alien. The soldier's visor cracked, revealing surprised. Eric hesitated. Remembering the child's face underground, he aimed carefully. His bolt struck the armor joint. The alien fell but stayed alive. Kara dashed past him. Keep moving, she urged. They reached the top. The alien survivors raised hands. Analytical drones scanned them. Secure prisoners, Daniel ordered. Colonists from support teams arrived behind Bravo squad. They tended to capture aliens and treated them as prisoners. Eric watched the aliens. They wore symbols of the Zalorian Empire. He felt a chill. They followed orders, he murmured. Nearby, Jordan and medics worked on rebuilding field stations. Kara walked over. Justice must guide us, she said. Eric nodded. We will hold them accountable, but not kill them all. Daniel regrouped his team. Northern Ridge clear, good work. Next, we moved to the greenhouse zone. They still have snipers there. He tapped the pad. Kara and Eric joined the march. The greenhouse dome had holes in its panels. Inside, colonists were repairing beds and replacing broken glass. A few plants survived, their leaves covered in dust. As they approached, an alien sniper fired. A bolt passed near Kara's head. Eric dove forward, tackling Kara to the ground. They rolled behind a collapsed bench. Daniel and Nathan returned fire. Pinning down the sniper, Chloe sent a drone over the dome roof. It flew silently and found the sniper's perch. She marked its position for the squad. Daniel nodded. Engage. Eric peeked around. He saw the sniper, its camouflage suit blending with metal shards. Eric raised his rifle. He aimed at the sniper's supporting arm. He fired. The bolt hit. The sniper's trigger hand spasmed. The soldier crashed to the ground. Silence fell. Eric stood and walked toward the collapsed dome entrance. Kara followed. Inside, colonists emerged from broken shelters. They cheered softly at the sight of humans. One woman ran to Eric and hugged him. Thank you, she whispered. Kara knelt to inspect a surviving plant. She wiped dust from its leaves. Life finds a way, she said quietly. The greenhouse team brought in new glass panels and started repairs. Daniel looked at Eric and Kara. This area is secure. You've both earned rest. Kara smiled tiredly. Eric rubbed his shoulder. Rest sounds good? They sat on a metal crate, watching the repairs. In the distance, more human shuttles arrived with supplies. Daniel approached them. Colonists are safe here. We look to the final stronghold at the old command center. Kara turned to Eric. 1. More push? He nodded. They rose and joined Bravo's squad. The last target lay beyond rolling hills and rocky paths. The command center was once a human outpost, now overtaken by Zalorian forces. They moved out at steady pace. Eric felt the weight of his rifle less. Kara walked beside him, silent but smiling in the sunrise. They reached the central structure. Broken walls and twisted metal girders formed the frame. An alien command flag flew atop a jagged tower. Let's end this, Daniel said. Take that flag down. He led the group across the open courtyard. Energy blasts came from hidden turrets. Chloe hacked the nearest turret's controls and disabled it. Nathan destroyed another with a launcher, remaining. Aliens rushed out. Bravo Squad met them head-on. Kara and Eric fought side by side. Eric fired at armor joints to stun. Kara disarmed 2 soldiers. They reached the tower base. Daniel cut the flag rope. The Zalorian banner fluttered and then fell. A cheer rose from Bravo Squad and colonists alike. Eric picked up the banner and handed it to a nearby Marine. No more Zalorian flag on our world, he said. Kara squeezed his hand. Daniel spoke over the comm. All objectives complete. Extract now. Vehicles rolled into the courtyard. They loaded colonists, prisoners, and wounded onto transports. As they ascended, Eric watched the command center shrink below. Kara leaned close. They will rebuild strong, Eric nodded. We made sure of that. Above, the human fleet glowed against the red sky. Their home was theirs once more. The horizon's alarms rang softly as light from Viridian streamed through the windows. Captain Daniel Reed stood on deck beside Admiral Olivia. He watched the planet spin slowly below. Kara and Eric were nearby, ready for the final mission. Olivia's voice was calm. This is our last chance. The Zalorian command fleet gathers at the outer rim. If we stop them, the galaxy will know humans defend their own. She pointed at a blinking icon on the star map. That is their flagship. Daniel took a deep breath. We strike at dawn. Bravo Squad with us. He looked at Kara and Eric. Gear up. Kara checked her rifle and communication gear. Eric slung on extra ammo and taped a small photo of the greenhouse seedlings to his vest. It was a reminder of home. At dawn, the Horizon launched its fastest ships. Eric and Kara boarded a sleek destroyer named Courage. Its engines hummed as it jumped into the red sky. Below, human fighters formed a ring around the Zalorian armada. Daniel's voice crackled over the comm. Maintain formation and cover our approach. The destroyer dove toward the flagship's position. Alien vessels glowed dark and menacing. Energy beams leapt across the void. The human ships returned. Fire in bright arcs. Inside Courage's hangar bay, Bravo Squad braced for drop. Kara whispered to Eric, This feels heavier than before. Eric nodded. Stay close. The doors opened. They plunged into the sky. Soldiers dangled from cables, dropping toward the flagship's hull. Eric's heart pounded. Kara steadied. Her breath. They reached the hull and clipped onto magnetic grips. The wind burned against their suits as they scaled the side. Energy bolts glanced off the metal around them. At the access hatch, Kara tapped her code. The hatch slid open silently. Inside, dark corridors led deep into the ship. Chloe's beacon glowed green, marking their path. Eric led the way. His boots echoed against metal grates. Kara held the map. They moved past rooms filled with alien technology. Screens showed star maps and weapon schematics. Nathan crouched beneath a bulkhead. He gestured them forward. We head to the command bridge. They'll be ready. Daniel spoke through the comm. You're on. Disable their shields. First, then we board. They reached a door marked with the Zalorian emblem. Chloe pulled out a device and hacked the lock. The door clicked and slid open. Inside, the main power conduit hummed. Pipes and cables glowed red. Kara placed charges around the conduit. Eric set the timer. They moved back. Daniel's voice came again. Detonate. Eric pressed the trigger. A pulse of energy blew through the conduit. Sparks flew. The lights dimmed. Outside, the flagship shields fell. Human fighters struck it with full force. Explosions rocked the hull. Inside, Bravo Squad stormed into the command deck. Alien officers in gleaming armor stood ready. They fired, but human soldiers advanced steadily. Eric ducked behind a console. Kara fired at an alien officer, her bolt striking true. The officer stumbled. Daniel entered the bridge and raised his weapon. Stand down, he commanded. One alien officer raised hands. Others dropped their weapons. Chloe hacked the bridge's consoles to seal off other sections. Olivia's voice echoed over the comm. Shield is down, boarding complete. Secure the flagship. Plant the human flag. Eric took the fallen Zalorian banner from a stand and tore a corner. Kara held the edge. They looked at each other and nodded. Together with Bravo Squad, they marched to the main mast. The hall was long, with metal floors and glowing panels. At the end, an empty flag stand awaited. Daniel placed the new human flag in the stand. Eric secured it. Kara saluted. The flag unfurled behind them, its stars bright against the dark metal. Outside, human ships cheered in unison. Fighter pilots rolled their ships in salute. The flagship thrummed as it switched to human control. Eric felt relief wash over him. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Kara rested a hand on his shoulder. On the bridge, Admiral Olivia materialized on a holoscreen. Her face was serious and proud. "You have done what many said impossible. You took the heart of the Zalorian fleet." Daniel replied, "We fight." "For our home?" He looked at Eric and Kara. "We fight for each other," Olivia smiled. "Return to the horizon. We have much to do." They boarded the shuttle back. Eric looked out at Viridian below, its red surface scarred but alive. Kara held the boy's blanket she brought along. They had rescued him too? The child's smiling face filled her mind. Back at the horizon, the fleet cheered. Captain Daniel invited Eric, Kara, and Bravo Squad to the bridge. Lights flashed in celebration. Olivia clasped Eric's shoulder. "You have earned this." She gestured to the holographic display of Viridian. Points lit up where humans rebuilt. Kara added, "We will make it beautiful again." The crew erupted in applause. Later, in the greenhouse on the horizon, Eric and Kara planted the first seedlings of earth crops. The soil was new, but the plants were green and hopeful. Eric whispered to a small sprout, "We protect you." Kara smiled and placed her hand over his. Above them, the human flag waved inside the dome. As the horizon set course for Viridian, the story closed on a promise. Humans defended their home, and together they would heal the scars of war. And in every seed they planted, they sowed the future of hope and unity.